Hey guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. My last chance to tell you, so I'm going to tell you again. In a couple hours, we have a special live stream going on for an hour here. I'm going to be gifting 60 memberships to this channel. Um, I'm frantically grabbing the link for you. Whoops. So come and join. It's 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, a special Sunday live stream. Come and join us, talk to us. There will be no OJ at this stream. None. Zero. Because it's not as popular as I thought it would be. In my head. In my head. That's fine. I love it. I absolutely love watching the OJ Simpson trial. And I love watching with you guys. You guys tell me things I didn't know, which I don't know if it makes me biased or if it gives me information. I don't know, but I love it. CJ, I would have to figure out. It would have been better if you did it in Discord. Can you do it in Discord? Then I can just play it. I could play it on my phone, but it would have to go through my microphone. You know what I mean? You sent it to my phone. So I can't really. If you could just do it in Discord real quick, that would be great for the stream. Like you did before. If not, I'll figure it out a way. I'll figure it out and I'll get it done. All right. I don't really know if we're on May 16th. I know it. We're not. I knew it. I knew we're not. I knew that was the wrong date, but I just ran out of time and I went with doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'll fix it. I'll fix the description. We are on May 2nd still, but we will finish May 2nd today. So we're going to finish part 2 and then we're going to finish part 3 today. And it looks like that's the dream team guy. So if we're still on Goldberg here, this could be either defense or prosecutor. We don't know. We're gonna find out. It would be nice to get away from the prosecutor. We've been with him for too long, and he's boring. Not completely boring, but boring enough. Here we go.
All right. And did you do that in this case prior to testifying today?
Yes, I did.
Let me just take down
Your Honor, to object to this line of questioning, no scientific basis, 352.
Overruled at this point.
I think with all these pauses, he's wrapping up. I think he's just searching for the last little bits of pieces to ask him.
Mr. Matheson, while we're putting up the date on the analyzed evidence report relating the findings on 84 A and B was what?
The data analysis completed on that report is October 18th, 1994.
Like you have to be careful. You almost got number one there. Sure, number one. Would it be better if we moved everybody down one seat? Would that be more comfortable for you? You're okay? All right.
Mr. Matheson, direct your attention to the diagram that we've just put up that says Bundy Drive biological evidence. It's People's 165 for identification. Have you looked at the photographs relating item number 42, which is at the bottom, the third photograph from the right?
Yes, I have.
And uh, was it your understanding from the crime scene photographs that this was the area in which Nicole Brown had been located prior to her body being removed?
Yes.
Now, did you also hear any evidence to the effect that when that stain was recovered, that Mr. Fung described it as being tacky?
No, I didn't.
Well, if I were to tell you that there was some evidence to that effect, would the fact that it was tacky have any significance from a standpoint of the amount of degradation you would expect in that area?
Well, using the term tacky by him and given the time that well, first off, tacky to me would mean that it had not dried as opposed to some of the other samples that were present. And that being liquid is one of the worst conditions for biological samples as far as degradation goes. So if that sample was tacky at the point it was collected, it means that it had been damp for an extended period of time. And potentially some degradation has been occurring.
Why is it that wet samples are more likely to degrade than dry samples?
It allows the degradation process to occur much more quickly. That's the environment that it likes to occur in.
Okay. And would it be proper to take into account testing that you did? Well, first of all, did you do some testing on item 42?
Yes, I did.
And would it be proper to take into account test results that you got on that in resolving the issue of the fingernail scrapings, 84A and B?
Objection, no foundation.
Sustain, Fred's question.
In the forensic science literature, is there any recommendation of looking at a pool of the victim's blood or blood on her clothing and resolving degradation issues?
Looking at blood that's known to come from a victim, yes, there is.
Why is that?
Because it is blood that leaves the body around the time that the event occurred. It is known to be that person's. It's kind of like a reference sample that enters the environment at the same time as the evidence samples.
To your knowledge, was item 42 collected as a circumstantial reference sample of the victim's blood?
Yes, it was.
And from a forensic science standpoint, would it be appropriate to look at test results on that blood for the purposes of resolving what was happening under the fingernails?
It wouldn't resolve it, but it would allow some additional information to be obtained, yes.
Why is that?
But because it is blood that is believed to be the victim's, given its location and quantity, and like I mentioned earlier, entered the environment at the same time as the rest of the blood samples at the scene, or relatively close to the same time. And thus it should reflect the types that we get in the exemplar samples, the reference samples that are taken from that person.
Would you expect the blood in item number 42 to have been exposed to the same environmental conditions as the blood under the fingernails?
To some extent,
No foundation.
obviously they're not in the exact same spot. There's going to be some slight variations, but the general temperature of the area is the same, the humidity and that type of thing.
And direct your attention now to item number 57, which is described as being a label, and the call out line has been testified to as being in the area of where Nicole Simpson's body would have been. Did you also do some testing on that?
Yes, I did.
And similarly, if that were located in an area that contained pooling of what appeared to be the victim's blood, could you also take a look at 57 the same way that you described with respect to 42?
Not exactly the same. It's not in the immediate area. It's a little bit further away. We're starting to get a little bit more separated. The fact that it is directly connected or in relation to a pool would add some weight to being able to use it for more additional information.
All right. And with respect to item number 54 for identification, which is in the area of the gate, there's a photograph of Criminalist Mazzola in the lower right-hand corner and a call-out line showing where that came from. Would that item, would you expect that to have been subject to the same environmental conditions as the blood under the fingernails and on the pool?
Oh,
It appears that that sample is up on the gate. It's going to be subjected to the same general environmental as far as weather conditions and such. However, the fact that it is separated from the rest, it appears to be kind of an isolated spot, probably dried faster, would be an indication that the conditions were not exactly the same.
So the fact that it dried faster would mean what?
Less likely to have any form of, or the extent of degradation of samples that were still wet.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to mark the what we've called the
Yay, thanks, Ray Bay. Hi, Justice Jane.
fingernail or nail scraping board, Your Honor, which had some graphic or one graphic photograph on it.
board we'll put over here.
I have 220, Your Honor.
All right, number 220.
Yeah, I have an objection, foundational objection I would like to approach on.
As to the nail board?
Yes.
All right, with court reporter.
You don't need to have a sidebar for every single objection. You just need a legal grounds. You just say the words objection, and then you say the legal grounds. Why do they keep doing this? Why? Judge Ito, come on. Get control. We're going to hear him start talking soon. This was May 2nd, 1995. I had May 16th in the title, but I just changed that to May 2nd. This is probably day like 46. So this is like the 46th day of trial, give or take a day or two. I didn't memorize them, but we're close in that range. I think if you count the preliminary hearing, it might be day like 70 some, but I'm not 100% sure on that. We showed the prelim at the beginning. This is like the 164th video I think we did here of the OJ trial. Yeah, I think this is day 40, 46, give or take a few. I don't know how many total days they had. We're about halfway through, I think. So I would suspect, 90. I don't know. Actual days was like 200 and
All right,
some.
thank you, counsel. Proceed.
If you count weekends and holidays and everything like that, the jury was sequestered for like 200 some days. Crazy long, crazy long time for anybody. Think about the pressures for these attorneys, though. Not only like were the cameras on them every single day, the cameras were on them, but the entire country was then and still is today picking apart every single thing they did on their job. Could you imagine doing a job where for the rest of eternity, people are going to pick apart everything you did on these days and say nasty things about your job performance, like we do with the dream team? And to make it worse, they're all standing right behind him now. Poor
All
guy.
right, Mr. Bancroft, this has a victim's photo on it.
We're going to hear the defense get Mr. Bancroft today, and I can't imagine they're going to do well. He is such a solid witness.
I don't want any still photos of this item. Madam Reporter, excuse me, would you contact Ms. Hazlett? I hear the remote camera going on.
At least the lawyers are acting appropriate right now. They're not joking or laughing.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
proceed.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Matheson, directing your attention to the exhibit that we just put up, the nail clippings, scrapings, and of Nicole Brown. Your Honor, may I put these photographs on the Elmo? On the overhead?
Yes.
All right, because I want to put the middle photograph on first. And then the two side photographs.
This is the first time it feels like a murder trial in this whole trial.
Mr. Goldberg, why don't you go ahead and work with the exhibit as you have it here.
Mr. Matheson, directing your attention to the middle photograph on this board on the bottom. Have you looked at that crime scene photograph before?
Yes, I have.
And assuming that this is an accurate representation of the location of the body when the police arrived and photographed it, and the blood area underneath the body, can you tell us why it would be proper to take a look at your results on item 42 in providing more information about the fingernail scrapings?
There is obviously a large quantity of blood present from the victim, both in the immediate area and in and around her hands.
And does it appear from this photograph that her hands are in contact with the, or at least her right hand is in contact with the pool of blood?
Part of it is, yes. Here's the back.
Now, looking at the photograph on the right of this board of the left hand, excuse me, right hand. No, that's the, okay, we'll look at the left hand. Okay. Right hand. Have you looked at this photograph?
Yes, I have.
And does this photograph help to explain why you feel it would be proper to look at what was happening with your testing on 42?
It helps point out that there is a large quantity of victim's blood present in and around the hand.
And next, looking at the left hand photograph. Have you looked at that?
Yes.
And again, does that help to describe why you feel it would be proper to look at what was happening on stain 42?
Yes.
Why is that?
The same reason. The there's a large amount of blood present on the victim's hands, presumably from the victim.
Now, next, I'd like to look at the photograph that says right hand fingernail scrapings. I think we're going to have to use the Elmo for that. Now, Mr. Matheson, is this the coroner's packet from which you took the items that you tested as 84A, excuse me, as 84?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell us what portion of that you used?
On opening up the package, there would be a small amount of debris that would be located in the package from the scrapings. That's what they are. They take the stick and they scrape under the nails and scrape into a bindle. So you'd have a little bit of debris down inside of it,
What did this look like?
like small chunks of blood.
It's difficult to see them in this. Can you see any of those chunks left in this photograph?
So it's hard to say. There are some specks. Mainly there are some scrapings where the wet blood had been scraped off of the stick onto the paper.
Now, did you notice when you saw the bindle, the what appears to be red or brown stains on the bindle?
On the inside of it, yes.
What significance, if any, does that have?
Well, it suggests that the blood was probably damp at the time that the scrapings were made and wiped off on the inside of there.
And is that significant from a standpoint of trying to learn more about what happened to the blood under the fingernails?
Well, like previously mentioned, it's a damp condition that most hastens degradation. And if it was still damp when these are taken, it means it had been damp for quite a while.
Now let's take a look at the left hand fingernail scrapings photograph. Now on
Whoa,
this
whoa, whoa,
particular
whoa.
photograph, can you
Don't go past that, sir. That's a big deal. Remember, the defense is saying that Furman had to have planted the glove at OJ's house because it was still moist. However, the scrapings from underneath Nicole's fingernails are still moist. So if the evidence at the scene of the crime was still moist, then yeah, the glove that they found at OJ's house would also still be moist.
see some of the specs or any specs that are consistent with what you tested?
Yes.
Can you point them out for us?
There appears to be captured in the little fold here of the bindle, little black specks that would be dried chunks of blood.
Is that what you saw at the time that you opened up the bindle and tested a portion of the specs in that bindle?
Yes.
Now, did you ever see in either of the bindles anything that looked like tissue or skin?
I did not see any, no.
Okay, thank you. Now, with respect to the other photographs that are of the fingernails, that appear to be of the fingernails themselves, does it appear that there is staining of blood on the underside of the fingernails?
There's very heavy staining on the right hand nail clippings, and there is some lighter but definite staining on what appears to be 3 of the nails marked as left hand fingernail clippings.
And the right hand was the hand in the photograph that is in closest contact with the pool of blood?
Yes.
Let's just take a quick look at the left hand fingernail clippings if we can. And there's also some staining on what appears to be the left hand fingernail clippings.
That's correct, on at least 3 of them.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm finished. Your Honor, is it possible to use the serology results chart simultaneously to the Bundy board, or does the court want us to?
Well, I want counsel for both sides to be able to see the object that we're working with is the problem.
Okay, well
Can
maybe
we set up the easel here, for example, so that the council can see it at the same time. The problem is then we get away from the jury. So I guess you're sort of, given the size of these monsters, I think you're sort of stuck with one or the other.
Well, let's just try putting, why don't we try putting the serology results board over the biological evidence board to make it easier to shift back and forth. Now, Mr. Matheson, taking a look now at item 42.
Mr. Fairtlow, can we get that up just a tad? Great, thank you.
On item 42 in your analyzed evidence report, how was that called?
Referring to my report, under the EAP, item number 42 was called inconclusive.
And this report is dated when?
The completion date of October 18th, 1994.
That's the same report that we previously discussed. We were discussing 84A and 84B.
Yes.
Okay, now, on the serology electrophoresis worksheet, what did you put on that worksheet when you were discussing the EAP results on 42?
I'd like to refer to that sheet.
Sure. And maybe you can also look at the item description.
Real quick, I don't know. So this number 42, blood under Nicole Brown, inconclusive B, very weak. So I wonder if that includes the blood that was under her hand. It just says blood under Nicole Brown. I mean, I don't know if it was the blood under her was just all of her blood, if any was Ron's blood, and if the blood under her hand was her blood, or was that from Ron? They don't really say. But number 42, I wonder if that's what they were just talking about, and if that has anything to do if the scrapings under her fingernails were also inconclusive and weak.
The serology description note, too.
I think it was pavement. I think it was the sidewalk. Because remember, her feet were like wedged under the gate, and I think that was the part that went into the ground, and the rest of her body was on the pavement. But I don't remember either. I don't know.
Okay, for item number 42 under the EAP, on the electrophoresis worksheet, one reading that I made was of a B ? Inc. or inconclusive. The secondary reading from another criminalist was as a no activity.
Now,
The information that I transferred over to the summary sheet was of a B ? And then the notation very weak with an INC for inconclusive.
okay, now, why did you put both a question mark and an INC on this result?
It's an indication to me that it's a very questionable result.
What's the difference between a question mark and an INC?
But depends on where it's written. I mean, INC or inconclusive is kind of the final decision based on the other information. The question mark is put there as an indication to me that I'm not sure of what it is.
All right. Now, what did you see when you ran the sample, item number 42? What could you actually see on the electrophoresis plate?
I saw two very weak bands in the general area of where I would expect to see the two B bands, with the top one being slightly darker than the bottom. but they were very weak and real kind of fuzzy or whatever. It was not a band. It was just kind of a haze in that area.
But were there in fact two perceptible, although hazy, bands in the area where you expect to see the two B bands?
Well, there was something going on there. They weren't really bands, but there was something occurring in those two areas.
All right. And what did that indicate to you, Mr. Matheson?
Well, just like I said, that I had the two bands or appearance of bands in the general area where a B should occur, which is why I put the B question mark, but it was nowhere near something that I would call. It was why it became inconclusive.
Now, with respect to the reference sample on Nicole Brown's blood, that was a BA, is that correct?
Yes.
So when you tested item 42, did you see any evidence of the A bands?
No, I did not.
So what happened to them?
Well, going off the assumption that item 42 was in fact collected as a secondary exemplar reference sample, it should have come back to be a BA, just like the reference sample that was received from her from the coroner's office. So it appears that 42 degraded to the point where the A bands were no longer visible and almost degraded to the point where lack of sensitivity, where the Bs were starting to fade away to nothing.
And what significance, if any, does that have in terms of understanding what was happening on 84A and B, the nail scrapings?
Well, the significance is the phenomena or the situation that is known to exist with the EAP system, and that is this degradation route of a BA to a B did in fact occur in or is possibly occurring because of the inconclusive in a situation regarding a sample at this scene.
They still have the
Let me
evidence.
ask you this. If you have a situation at a crime scene where the victim is lying in a pool of her own blood, and that blood, her pool of blood, is shown to have degraded from a type BA to the point that it contains two very faint bands, which are most consistent with a B. And then you also have fingernail scrape. What can you say about the material underneath the fingernails that appears to be most consistent with a B?
Overall.
Well, like I just mentioned, the fact that you do have what appears to be degradation occurring in a sample that we know came from a person of a certain type, this phenomenon has shown that it does appear that it's existing even at this location. It applies some reason that you can carry this through potentially to other items in the that were collected in the same vicinity at roughly the same time.
All right, let's move on.
So let me just see if I can understand what you're saying.
I think we've asked this question in about 8 different forms now
I know, but it's
about how it degrades.
it's a little complex, and I just want to make sure I understand what Mr. Matheson is
Well, we're
saying.
not here to see if you understand, counsel. We're here to see if the jury understands. And we've heard this question in 8 different forms now.
Okay.
Let's
Now-
move on.
Mr. Matheson, with respect to the item number that's labeled 57 that was described as having come from the area just east of where the body was, what were your results on that?
Referring again to my report, the results for the EAP on item number 1557 were inconclusive.
And according to your electrophoresis worksheet, what were the results?
In the first column has a B question mark, INC. Second column is just INC for inconclusive.
And on that particular sample, what did that one look like?
If I called it a B inconclusive or a B question mark, that means that there was something appearing in the two areas of the B bands, or I expect to see B bands with the B region being more intense than the C.
Now, with respect to item number 57, did you get a result off the PGM subtype?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
A 1+.
And is it proper to take a look at what was happening on that item 57 in the EAP enzyme system to determine or to provide more information about what was happening under the fingernails?
Sewage tax not necessary.
Sustain.
Sir, did you consider this result in providing more information in terms of what was happening under the fingernails?
As far as item 57, it didn't come much into play when it came into consideration of the fingernail scrapings.
But the PGM subtype would be consistent with the victim, yet the EAP inconclusive would be inconsistent theoretically.
If that inconclusive result was a conclusive result, then it would be not consistent with the victim in this.
Does that tend to show that at this crime scene there is degradation of the EAP marker from a BA to a B?
Only Micah would know.
Sustain. Leading
Does-
also.
Does that tend to show that there was degradation on this particular sample, item 57, at this crime scene?
Sustain.
What does that show in terms of degradation on this sample, item 57?
Total.
Well, just the inconclusive in and of itself, regardless of the type, indicates that either some sort of degradation is occurring or there's just not enough sample to get a result.
And does the B provide any more information?
Not in and of itself, no.
Now, with respect to item 85, did you also do some testing on that?
Yes, I did.
And what testing did you do on item 85?
I did the same electrophoretic run as previously described that included the PGM subtype and the EAP.
What was the result of the PGM subtype on item 85?
There are actually two separate stains that are marked 85, 85A and 85B. In both instances, the PGM subtype was a 1+.
And what did you write down, not in the analyzed evidence report, but on the electrophoresis worksheets as to the result on the EAP?
This is for item number 85A and B.
Yes.
The column that recorded my initial results was a B with an A question mark. The column of the second reader, the other criminalist, was a BA.
Okay, so the second criminalist called that as a BA.
Yes.
Why were you not willing to call that as a BA?
If you remember the bands that we showed in the chart, with a BA we should have 4 bands of basically certain types of intensities. I've seen a number of these type of samples over the years, and the A bands were significantly weaker than I would have expected them to be in a classic BA, given the intensity of the B bands.
Can you exclude this, or could you exclude this as being certain other phenotypes of the common EAP phenotypes?
The EAP on 85A and B?
Yes.
Well, the fact that there were bands in the A region, assuming it's not a mixture, it could not just be a B, it could not just be a CB, and it could not just be a C. And given the intensities, it is probably not a CA.
And there are 5 common phenotypes. Was it 5?
I believe
or
there
it
was 6.
So could it be any of the common phenotypes other than, could it be any of the other common phenotypes other than BA?
Not if it's a sole sample, no.
Now, does this test result provide any additional information with respect to what was happening on the fingernail sample?
It could.
And why is that?
Well, in this particular sample, I don't know for a fact what the original source of the blood is. However, I am getting 4 bands that are in the positions and relative sensitivities of a BA. The difference here is that the A bands are significantly weaker. If it is blood from a single source, it had to have started out as a BA, but those A bands have started to degrade or lose sensitivity. If they had gone any further, we would have a situation where the BA again would start looking like a B.
So on this particular sample, if the A bands had in fact degraded somewhat more than they were, what would you called it as?
Then I would have called it as a B.
And why would have that been called as a B if the A bands had degraded to the point where you could no longer detect them?
Because all that would be left would be the two bands that appear in the region where you expect to see the B bands, one band being properly greater intensity than the other.
So, Mr. Matheson, based upon the totality of your results that you've discussed with this EAP enzyme and also the viewing of the crime scene photographs, do you have an opinion as to whether the fingernail scrapings were in fact a true B, or more likely to have been a true B, or more likely to have originally been a BA that degraded into a B?
Given everything, including the results, I would say it's more likely than not that that blood was in fact a BA, that it's the victim's blood. However, I cannot totally exclude the possibility that it is a EAP type B.
And what is the basis of that opinion that it's more probably the victim's blood?
Like we just said, looking at the photos, a lot of the victim's blood present. If we were just to look at that and not do an analysis on it, I think common sense would tell you that that's going to be the victim's blood under her own fingernails. However, that's not a terribly scientific approach. We still run the test. We don't assume what it is. The test came up with this type B. That is, in fact, what was seen on the gel, so it cannot be totally discounted. But I would say there's a very high likelihood that that is the victim's blood under the nails.
Now, given the results that you've discussed so far as to the fingernail scrapings and the other items that we've talked about in terms of EAP, is there anything further that can be done from a forensic science standpoint in order to try to provide even more information on this issue?
Yes, there is.
And what's that?
Continue to run additional tests. Find out if you can, in fact, exclude the victim under another system.
And are you talking about conventional or are you talking about DNA tests?
Well, you could do both. However, more information would be derived from subjecting it to DNA typing.
And to your knowledge, was this one of the samples that was in fact sent out for DNA testing?
Yes, it was.
Now, in the opinions that you've expressed in court, have you considered any DNA results, or are your opinions based exclusively on the testing that you did in the photographs that you viewed?
It's been strictly on the information that I have regarding my own testing and the photographs and conditions. I did not consider any sort of DNA results.
All right.
All right, Mr. Goldberg, would this be a good spot?
It would be, Your Honor. Thank
All
you.
right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief recess for the court reporters. Please remember my admonitions to you, and we'll reconvene in 15 minutes. Mr. Matheson, you're adjourned 15 minutes. All right. Thank you. And is again on the witness stand undergoing direct examination by Mr. Goldberg. Mr. Matheson, you're reminded again that you're still under oath, and Mr. Goldberg, you may conclude your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Matheson, does the serology results board that we've been discussing contain
If it was 100 and I live 10 minutes from the ocean, that's right where I would be today, in the ocean.
the results on every single item that you tested, or just some of them?
Just some of them.
For instance, did you test a item 115 through 117?
Yes, I did.
And did you get any test results? Did you get any results on that, or was that an inconclusive from your analyzed evidence report?
Okay, referring to my analyzed evidence report for item number 115, 116, and 117, I got no activity for all three items in the PGM subtype system and inconclusive for all three items in the EAP system.
Okay, and those, to your information, were stains on the rear gate at the Bundy location? Or don't you
Yes.
know? All right. Now, in a stain that was, if we assume for the sake of your testimony that 116, 115, and 117, you can sort of see them on the left side of the Bundy board, were in fact located at the Bundy location but not collected until July the 3rd. Would you expect there to be more degradation on the conventional markers of the kind that you typed than on other stains that were collected on the 13th of June?
Sustained.
Sir, do environmental conditions cause some degradation on dry stains as well as wet stains?
Yes, the best way to store it is frozen and dry.
And would you expect there to be some degradation on the conventional markers in those stains between July the 13th and, excuse me, June the 13th and July the 3rd?
If they were not stored frozen, yes.
Now, with respect to 117, when you tested that item, did you notice anything about the way that the swatches were contained inside the bindle?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
That when I first opened it up, it appeared like there was just one swatch present in the bindle, but upon closer examination and peeling them apart, there was actually, I believe, 3.
Now, you testified earlier about an inventory that you did in June, I think it was June the 29th of last year, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you have 17, 15, 16, and 7, excuse me, 115, 116, and 117 for that interview, for that examination?
No, I did not.
Now, we've also asked you some questions about the reference vial, item number 17. Over the noon hour, did you fill up some reference vials with a colored liquid, some Vacutainer reference vials?
Yes, I did.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to mark as people's next in order. It's
221.
221. Maybe I can do it as A and B.
Right.
221A appears to be the more full of the two vials.
All right, will you show these to Mr. Blazier?
Yes. So I've marked the less full of the two vials as 221B. Mr. Matheson, showing you 221A and B. Are these the vials that you filled with water at the noon hour?
Yes, they are.
Is there some kind of food coloring? Is this a biological sample in here?
No, it is not.
Is there food coloring or something in there just to make it easier to see?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to show you these two vials. And can you tell us, starting with 221A, what you did in order to create that demonstration exhibit?
Objection, the foundation is to whether these are the same size as 17.
Sustained.
Sir, these are Vacutainer vials, is that correct?
That's the brand name of them, yes.
And are those approximately the same size as the monoject vials that are also used, purple top vials?
They appear to be, yes.
Okay.
I object to further questions about the foundation.
Briefly, yes,
Let me,
I agree.
Let me just show you Defense 1124 for identification. Can you just take a look and compare the monojet with the Vacutainer?
I was just doing a visual comparison of the Monoject brand to the Vacutainer brand. The Monoject appears to be maybe a 1/16 of an inch shorter, and the diameter appears to be roughly the same.
Maybe you can just rest them on the, stand them up on the counter just so we can see the height comparison.
Placing them side by side on the counter, so the glass is on the bottom, the Monoject stopper is partially extended. It isn't all the way seated, but It appears that they're very similar in height and circumference.
Sir, and when you looked at the vial, were you actually looking to see whether it was a vacutainer as opposed to a monojet, or are all these purple top vials, as far as you're concerned, the same?
Talking about when I looked at it on the 29th?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't looking at the brand name. Just the fact there was a purple cap vial of about this size.
So on the 29th, did you make certain assumptions with respect to how large purple top vial is?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm so famous that even Bill comes to my stream. Hello, American courts. How are you? Listen, I have to take my dog outside for a second. I have to. I can't just tell her to wait. She doesn't understand. So I'll get better cameras in there too. I'll be back in 2 seconds, guys. Just behave for a second. Bill's here. Try to, you know, Bill's here.
Was your assumption?
That it was a 10 milliliter tube, and that is that full, it would hold 10 milliliters of liquid.
What was the assumption based on?
I'm not sure. It's just an assumption I've held for many years.
Have you ever tried to test it by filling up a vacutainer or a monojet to see exactly how much it holds?
No,
Has that ever been a pertinent issue in any of your past casework?
no, it is not.
Now, with respect to the vacutainer tubes that you filled up, can you tell us what you did?
Okay, in both instances, I took the caps off of them. I was supplied with from the laboratory a pipetter like I described earlier. This particular one can deliver exactly 1 milliliter of fluid. So I set it to 1 milliliter. And in the one that was marked 20 or 221A, I delivered 3.8 milliliters of fluid, 3,000s or
Can you hold that up so the jurors can see the amount of fluid in there?
basically delivering, three 1 milliliter portions and then 1.8 milliliter portion. In the other one, which is marked as 221B, I delivered two 1 milliliter portions, or a total of 2 milliliters.
Well, how do you know that the portions of water that you used in order to fill these vials were accurately measured?
I was using a pipetter that is calibrated to those amounts.
Are
What
the
brand?
dispo pipetters or disposable pipetters calibrated?
The glass ones that I was describing
Yeah.
earlier, no, they are not.
Okay, and those were the ones that you use when you're actually doing your testing.
Yes.
Now, can you hold up those two vials next to each other so the jurors can get a sense of the difference between the two? Mr. Matheson, as to the vial that's 221B for identification, I'm sorry, A, the larger of the two vials, let me ask another question first. On June the 29th, did you have an assumption as to where the 5 milliliter point would be on this type of purple topped vial?
Yes, I did.
What was your assumption?
That if this is a 10 milliliter tube, the 5 milliliter point would be at about the halfway point on the tube.
Can you write in the, maybe you can just make a mark in the area that you would have assumed to be a 5 milliliter point.
Oh,
And
just doing an approximation, going from the top of the tube to about the halfway point, I would see it as right about where I've drawn that line.
because you've just drawn a line across the tube.
Is that on the glass or on the label?
I drew it on the label.
And Mr. Matheson, based upon that assumption, if you were to assume it was correct, how much would you estimate is in that vial?
But looking at it right now, based on that, I'd say about 2.5 milliliters,
And in fact, it has how much?
3.8.
So your assumption based upon the halfway point is 1.3 milliliters off.
Yes.
And why is it that you've never done any experiments like this before?
It's just never been an issue. I've never needed to worry exactly how much blood was in a tube.
Why don't you need to worry about that?
Haven't we covered this line already?
Okay. Perhaps we could pass the tubes around though, so that the jurors could get them.
He's been on the stand for so long. Hi, Kelly. Ugh. Not as long as Fung was on the stand, but he has to be fried by now. He did a stellar job so far. No, I'm not muted.
Based upon the assumption in 221A as
You
to the
can't hear
midway
me?
point, uh, would you say that you could be off by at least 1.3 milliliters in estimating these tubes?
I thought we asked that question.
Well, I think I asked it a little bit differently and it might have been ambiguous.
We've asked it already.
Okay. Now, Mr. Matheson, as a result of this little experiment that you did, have you come to any conclusions regarding the accuracy of trying to guesstimate what's in one of these non-graduated purple top tubes?
Objection or guesstimate?
Sustain, rephrase the question.
Well, for you, when you looked at one of these purple top tubes on the 29th, would you describe what you were doing as being an estimate or a guesstimate?
It was definitely a very
Come
rough estimate.
Okay, and have you come to any conclusions with respect to how accurate your estimate was?
Yes,
What?
that it was not very accurate at all.
Okay. Now, I'd like to mark, we've already marked as People's 210 for identification and exhibit. Perhaps we could put that up. I'm going to come back to these serology results, so I don't know whether it's possible to put it over there. While he's getting that chart, Mr. Matheson, I wanted to ask you about some testimony, though, from the preliminary hearing on page 39, line 25, through page 40, line 3.
2 seconds.
It's page 39 through 40. Did you have that? Page 39, line 25 through 40, line 3. Mr. Matheson, do you recall giving the following answers to the following questions at the preliminary hearing? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to back up to line 22 for the question. Question, with respect to the sample of item number 17, the blood vial of O.J. Simpson, did you similarly inventory how much of that sample you consumed? Answer, the proportion that would be consumed would have been O, a stain of well, consisting of significantly less than 1 drop out of the vial, which when I received it had about 2 milliliters of blood in it. So it would have been an insignificant quantity to the amount that was present. Question, thank you. Do you recall giving that answer to that question, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what did you mean by the portion that you consumed would have been significantly less than 1 drop out of the vial, and describing it as an insignificant quantity?
At that point, I've been referring strictly to the electrophoretic work. The gels, that type of thing, uses a very small amount
Nancy,
of
you're-
blood, and either forgetting about or not including the ABO typing.
Were you referring to any materials that were clinging to the sides of the pipettes or the microcentrifuge tubes? Or were you even thinking about that at the time?
Didn't even dawn on me. I was just talking about the actual amount of sample that was used during testing.
And where did the figure of the 2 milliliters, had about 2 milliliters, come from?
That's consistent with the estimate that I made on that inventory.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention to People's 210 for identification. What is represented on this board? Let's start with the outside packaging. What does that represent?
That is a white analyzed evidence envelope that's used to store evidence items for freezer storage. And these are marked to contain items 334 through 336.
Now, what is the package marked item 47, 50, and 78? What are those?
What is shown in those pictures are a coin envelope or a manila coin envelope that's used to hold an evidence item, along with the bindle, a little white paper bindle that the actual swatch or evidence item is placed inside of.
And are all these items that are item numbers bearing the DR number in our case?
Yes, they are.
Now, with respect to the item numbers 47, 50, and 78, did you cause those to be released to someone from the Scientific Investigations Division?
Well, they were released in conjunction with a court order. I happened to be present when they were released.
And when was that?
I'd have to refer to some notes. Just a moment.
Wasn't that in October?
Can we stipulate to the date?
It was October 26th,
Does that sound right?
27th.
All right, October 26th. Let's move along.
That was the day of the court order. And you would have released them after the court order in October.
Well, I didn't release them. They were released by our evidence control unit, but I was present when they were signed
All right.
out.
And who were they signed out to?
Mr. Regal?
Is that the same Mr. Regal that you referred to earlier as a defense expert?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, did those come back into the possession of the Scientific Investigations Division?
Yes, they did.
And can you give us the date on that?
That was on March 10th, 1995.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, Nicole Marie. Thanks for stopping in.
Now, getting back to the testing that you did on the remaining of the items that we haven't discussed, on this ESD enzyme, the 3 individuals here have type 1, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And why did you use that for the purposes of testing item 49 since everyone has the same ESD type?
One of the electrophoretic systems that was used for that item is something that goes by the name of Group 1. It's a group of 3 different enzymes, the ESD, PGM, and GLO enzymes. They were all done in conjunction, and all 3 of them potentially were available to provide information.
And we've already asked you about the results on 13A in terms of the PGM subtype, and the EAP result on that was a BA.
That's correct.
And are both of those types consistent with Nicole Brown?
She has the same types, that's correct.
And what date did you do this test on 13A?
Referring back to my notes. The testing on item 13A, the SOC, was on September 20th, 1994.
Now, in order to calculate the frequency on that item, what did you do?
I would determine what the frequency of occurrence of 1+ is in the general population, and what the frequency of occurrence or percentage of a BA in the general population, and multiply those 2 numbers together.
And is that how you arrived at the 16%?
Approximately 16%, correct.
And did you do any further testing on this in terms of genetic markers after then?
No, I did not.
And why?
Well, the conventional work at this point was being done strictly to screen certain stains to determine whether or not it would be appropriate to send them out for further DNA analysis.
And when you're saying at this point, are you talking about September of last year?
That's correct.
All right. Now, with respect to item number 37, the glove, it has A through D. What does A through D signify?
On items, not swatches, but items that have some size, for example, a glove where there may be different bloody areas on it, we'd analyze the different areas that were present. And in this case, I chose 4 different areas on the glove and designated them as A through D.
And what technique did you use? Did you use cloth swatch technique or some other?
Well, in this case, I'm running directly from the glove under the electrophoresis gel. So I would have taken a thread. I described earlier, we showed how you take a thread and put it into the gel. I would have taken a thread and removed the sample directly from the glove.
Can you tell us which glove A through D, 37A through D, are they all in the same glove, or are they on different gloves?
Referring again to my notes. Okay, I chose 2 samples from the left glove and 2 samples from the right glove. Excuse me. I took 2 samples from the front and 2 samples from the back.
Okay, of one glove.
Yes.
And what were the results on the test that you performed on item 37, the glove?
That I determined the PGM subtype in all 4 areas tested to be a 2+, 1+, and the EAP to be inconclusive.
And what is who is a 2+, 1+ consistent with?
Of the 3 people that are mentioned here, it's consistent with Mr. Goldman or anybody else who's a 2+, 1+.
And did you also calculate a frequency for that item?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I determined off of our experience within our laboratory with the PGM subtypes, about 20% of the general population has that type.
Okay. And now directing your attention to item 44, Let's just see where that came from, if it's on the Bundy board. We can move that over a little bit. Did you do some testing on item 44?
Yes, I did.
Do you see the photograph signifying 44 in the upper right-hand corner? One photograph to the left of 45.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Fairtlow. You could put that back up. I just wanted to. Sorry. And what were the results on item 44? You're testing on that item.
I found the PGM subtype to be a 2+1+, and the EAP gave no activity.
Did you calculate a frequency?
Yes, I did.
What did you calculate?
That a 2+1+ exists in about 20% of the population.
And now let's skip over to item 78B. Did you do some testing on that item?
We dropped the
Yes,
ball.
I did.
And at this time, I'd like to mark as
Richard, you
people's
said that
next in order.
yesterday
It's
and the day before
2:22,
and the day before and the day before.
a laboratory note
before.
that's L381.
All right, 222. All right, thank you, councils.
Mr. Matheson, I'm going to show you this laboratory note and have you describe for us whether you recognize that document and what it is.
Yes, I do. That is a copy of a serology item description notes that describes where items were taken off of item number 78, the boots.
And what items did you take off of the boots?
Well, I tested six different areas on the boots themselves. They were labeled 78A through 78E.
And does this chart show the relative locations of A through E?
Yes, it does.
Did you take swatches off of both boots?
Yes.
So A came off which boot?
78A is from the sole heel area of the right boot.
And where did 78B come from?
78B is from the outer edge of the sole of the right boot.
Is that the same right boot? I mean, as the other one?
Yes,
Same item number?
78A, yes.
And now I'd like to show you some photographs that we previously marked. Your Honor, I don't know whether, yeah. I think they're People's 98. Does this appear to be consistent with, or does this appear to be the boot that you took some of the items off, the left one? Or the right one, rather.
As I say, that looks like the right
Yeah.
boot, yes.
Okay, can you tell us using this photograph and your diagram where you took 78A off of?
Yes. 78A would have been collected from the lower heel area down in here, pointing to the lower left-hand bottom of the.
Maybe we can mark that. Is the arrow in the right position?
Mr. Matheson, why don't you let your monitor here?
I could probably stand to go up a little bit and then towards the right a little bit, right in that general area right there.
Can we mark that? Can we write a 78A, or is that too? Sorry, yeah. So that was 78A.
Correct.
Can we print that? Can you see where 78B came from on this?
Not directly, no.
Can you give us the general vicinity of it using this photograph?
It would be, if you take the arrow up a little bit, down a little bit and then to the right. No, go back to the edge. The sample is actually on the edge of the sole. You can see it directly from the bottom and in that general area. as is being pointed to right now.
Maybe we can mark that and label that 78A.
78A.
I'm sorry, B. Yes, B. Maybe we can mark the printout as 223 for identification.
All right, equals 223, print out of this photo regarding the boot.
Now, Mr. Matheson, continuing with the testing on 78A, excuse me, 78B, the shoe. Did you have any results on that testing?
Yes, on 78B.
What was the result?
That in the PGM subtype system, I found a 2+, 1+, and in EAP, there was no activity.
What does no activity mean?
So it means that in that lane on the gel, there was nothing visible, no reaction.
And you also calculated a result on that,
A frequency, correct.
which was?
The same as the other 2+, 1+, occurs in about 20% of the population.
Okay. Now I'd like to direct your attention finally to stain 49. Now, on this particular stain, you didn't test this in September, but in June,
That's correct.
and that was on, and when in June?
The testing was done on June 27th and 28th, 1994.
And I'd just like you to look quickly at the Bundy drive board to see where stain 49 came from. In the left-hand corner, card number 114. Did you test the stain 49 that bear the DR number in this case?
Yes, I did.
Now at that time, did it have the item number on it and the photo number 114, or don't you know?
Referring to my notes, I believe it did. Yeah, it's referenced by my notes that the item number 49 did have photo ID number 114 on it.
All right. Now, with respect to this particular stain, did you do ABO typing on
Yes.
that stain?
Yes, I did.
And what result did you get off the ABO typing on stain 49?
That the results are indicative of a type A.
And what does the term indicative mean?
When you're doing ABO typing, there's two different factors that can indicate what type or what your result is. One of them is the antigen and one is the antibody. Normally, we like to run both tests so that one can confirm the other. If you only run one, or if you only get conclusive results in one, we call it indicative of. In this particular case, I chose to limit the amount of sample I use, only analyzed for what's called the ABO antigen, and thus get an indication of a type A.
Why do you want to limit the amount of sample that you used on item 49?
Well, again, because there are additional tests that could be performed, in particular DNA testing, which potentially could provide much greater discrimination than ABO testing.
Now, are there any individuals of the three people that we have reference samples for that are consistent with a type A?
Yes,
Who's that?
both Mr. Simpson and Nicole Brown.
Is there anyone that can be eliminated as a donor of the stain based upon your testing of the ABO type?
Yes,
Who's that?
Mr. Goldman.
Now, his type is what?
The results I got is it's indicative of a type O.
And why is it indicative of O for the same reason that you described indicative of A?
Well, similar reasons. One of the two tests provided a conclusive result. The other gave an inconclusive result.
Now, with respect to the ESD marker, what was the result on that on item 49?
Got an indication of a result of a type 1 in the ESD system.
And that's consistent with everyone,
Yes,
at least our three individuals here.
that's correct. In relation to the population we're talking about here, the three people.
Did you also do a PGM subtype?
Yes, I did.
And based upon the PGM subtype, were you able to exclude anyone from our population of three individuals based on those results?
Yes, I was.
Who?
Based solely on the PGM subtype, I was able to eliminate Mr. Goldman as contributing that blood, or Ms. Brown as contributing that blood.
And finally, on the EAP system, did you receive a result? Did you get a result on EAP for item number 49?
I did not test it for that.
And why wasn't EAP tested on this item?
Well, we did not run a system at that time that included the EAP. And we chose to do the PGM subtype solely by itself.
So if you had wanted to test EAP on this drop 49, would you had to use more sample and made a separate run?
At this point, yes.
And why not do that?
The same thing, we don't want to consume any more sample.
All right. Now, with respect to the other EAP test, did you testify that you didn't actually have to use additional sample in order to get those results?
That's correct.
Now, based upon the testing that you did on item number 49, could that drop have been donated by Nicole Brown
No, it could not.
or by Ronald Goldman?
No, it could not.
Could have it been donated by Orenthal Simpson?
It could have.
Now, did you do a calculation of frequency on this blood drop?
Yes, I did.
And can you break it down for us, starting with the ABO, what the frequency is of that item?
I'd have, on each individual marker,
Can you do that?
I can. I'd have to refer to another chart that I made.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, that has it combined. I have a chart that breaks down the population frequencies as determined within our laboratory on samples that we have run on just the markers that we are interested in on the items in this case.
Now, with respect to the ABO type, what frequency did you apply to the ABO type on 49?
Type A in the ABO system exists in about approximately 33.7% of the general population.
So it's just a little over a third.
Approximately, yes.
Now, with respect to the ESD, the esterase D result, did you use any figure assigned to that number for the purposes of arriving at your final conclusion?
Yes, I did.
And what was the percentage there?
That the ESD1 exists in about 79.6% of the population.
What about PGM subtype? Did you come up with a figure for the PGM subtype?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
That the PGM subtype of a 2+, 2- exists in approximately 1.6% of the population.
So based upon PGM subtype alone, only 1.6% of the population have the same PGM subtype as the defendant in this case?
That's correct.
Now, in order to come up with your final conclusion in terms of the frequency, what did you do as to item number 49?
I took those 3 percentages that were just mentioned and multiplied them together.
And you arrived at what?
Simply multiplying together, it comes up with approximately 0.43% of the population, which then rounding that off to make it a little bit more understandable, works out to about 1 person out of every 200.
Or 0.5%?
That's correct.
And 0.5% is 1/2 of 1%?
Yes.
Does that mean that 99.5% of the population can be excluded as having donated that sample 49 at the crime scene?
Approximately, yes.
Or that if you took 200 people and tested them, that you would expect that only one of them might have the same blood type as the person that donated that drop?
Oh, that's correct.
No further questions.
Later. Do you need a moment or do you want to? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief moment to recycle, reorganize the exhibits and things. We'll take about 10 or 15 minutes to allow counsel to do that. I'll ask you just to step back into the jury room and we'll call you out as soon as we're ready to start up again. Mr. Gregory Matheson is again on the witness stand under oath. Now to begin cross-examination by Mr. Glacier.
Mr. Matheson, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Mr. Matheson, I want to start by asking you some questions about your background that you had testified to on direct. You indicated that you had attended several courses in DNA technology, and I believe your testimony went to the year 1990. Am I accurate on that?
I'd have to confirm the dates on that. You mean 1990 is a formal course on the most recent end?
That's the last entry that I have concerning DNA training.
As far as coursework, yes.
And that was a 2-week course in 1990 in Denver, Colorado, as well as a course at CETUS Corporation.
Well, the PCR workshop was actually the University of New Haven that was sponsored by CETUS.
And it was at that conference that you learned a little bit about RFLP and something about PCR.
Vegas to something and a little bit.
Overall.
Which one are we talking about? The
The-
1 week CETUS course was a fairly involved course on PCR. We actually did the typing ourselves and that type of thing. The 2 week course,
We have a lot of questions that we're about to find answers to, guys. We have a lot of questions. So everybody on the defense has just annoyed the crap out of us. But this witness is so good. And this is a brand new defense guy. Is he going to annoy the crap out of us? Or is he going to ask good questions? I don't know. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. Just such a good witness. He has to do great because of the verdict, right?
that I mentioned at Denver was a overview of RFLP type techniques, along with having a chance to try some of them.
And then in 1990, you had the other 2 courses, the Denver course and the CETUS course.
That's what I was just referring to.
Right,
Correct.
the New Haven course was an earlier course.
No, there was actually a couple at New Haven,
Since 1990, have you attended any training courses in DNA technology?
not coursework. No,
And have you done any reading on DNA technology since 1990?
yes,
What sorts of readings?
I've reviewed some technical articles. As far as just reading goes, looked through the different journals that are out there, Journal of Forensic Science Society, that type of thing. Not a lot in depth.
Now, there are regular seminars every year put on by Roche Molecular puts some on, and other organizations put on seminars concerning DNA technology and advances that are being made in that area, correct?
That's correct.
And those courses are available to you if you choose to attend them.
Yes, and if I'm given time from the city.
And you have not chosen to attend any of those courses.
But when I said yes, you mentioned seminars.
Yes.
Oh yes, I've actually attended a couple since 1990 along that line seminar. When I was talking before about no coursework after 1990, I was talking about a classroom type of setting. As a matter of fact, in 1993 in September, I attended a Promega meeting, or the International Symposium on Human Identification in Scottsdale, Arizona. And that would be one that was directly related, strictly to the area of DNA. Also attended, like I mentioned, the CAC seminars and the American Academy meetings, which tend to go into length in the area of DNA.
Have you ever taught any aspect of DNA technology at any of those seminars?
No, I have not.
Have you ever taught DNA technology at any program at all?
Depends on what you mean by DNA technology. I give general overviews, in particular within our department, to detectives so that they're aware of our current status and that type of thing, but not in any of the seminars.
Now, you indicated that you're a member of the California Association of Criminalists,
That's correct.
and you've attended every seminar of theirs since 1979.
Except for either 3 or 4, yes.
Now, how often are those held?
Twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall.
And again, are those voluntary programs that you can choose to go to or not choose to go to?
Yes, that's correct.
And are those, does your organization allow you to attend those if you want to?
They will give us time to attend. They don't cover expenses normally.
To your knowledge, has Dennis Fong attended any of those courses?
Also for hearsay.
Vague.
It's also irrelevant.
I don't think so.
Any of those courses, that's vague.
I think he's just like Fung, a criminologist. I don't think he's an expert in DNA, but I really don't know.
I'm sorry.
That's vague, any of those courses.
The California Association of Criminalist seminars that happen twice a year. You have that in mind?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, did Dennis Fung attend any of those seminars this year?
Well, this year, meaning 1995, there hasn't been one yet.
94.
I'm not sure. The one in the fall was in Pasadena. I think I might have seen him there, but I'm not sure.
93.
I don't have any specific recollection of whether he's attended or not.
Is there a record kept somewhere of who attends various seminars?
Normally, it's included, if they choose to include it, as part of their statement of qualifications or CV. Beyond that, our department requires something that's called a travel authority if it's going to be travel for training purposes or seminars out of the county, and it would be recorded in that. But it's not like a listing of individual attendances.
And they're not required to keep a record of how many courses they attend or what types of courses they are.
Well, it's recommended that they are and that they keep their statement of qualifications up to date.
So is it your experience that had he attended courses, that would be on his CV?
It should be, yes.
Do you know whether Andrea Mazzola has attended any California Association of Criminalist seminars?
No,
You don't know, or she hasn't?
no, I do not. No.
Now, do you make any effort to monitor what sorts of classes or seminars the people that work under you attend?
Well, we make sure that we give people the opportunity to attend if they are interested, and we try and encourage people to attend. As far as myself monitoring what courses each individual person goes to, no.
Now, you indicated, I believe, that you're a member of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences.
Yes, just recently.
Now, the activity where you are a member of the board of directors, that's the California Association of Criminalists?
Where I was a member of the board of directors, yes, that and the American Board of Criminalistics.
Now, with both of those organizations, were you involved in accreditation programs?
I wasn't, neither one of those organizations are involved in accreditation. They are both associated to some extent with certification.
Now, describe what certification is.
Certification is a system whereby, in our case, the voluntary system, whereby a professional has an opportunity to show that they meet minimum qualifications and standards within a certain area, as opposed to accreditation in forensics, which tests whole laboratories or laboratory systems.
So certification is for an individual, accreditation is for the lab as a whole.
That's correct.
And is your understanding that within the forensic community, the idea of certification is an important one?
It is with many of the members, yes.
And there's been a substantial amount of controversy in the forensic community about how forms of certification should take place. Are you aware of that?
Overruled.
Well, during the course, particularly during the course of when I was involved in setting up the CAC certification program, there was a lot of discussion amongst our members as to what the criteria should be to be able to apply. There was give and take on that. There was some differences of opinion. And then when we got involved in the American Board of Criminalistics, which is a national body that, because of the wide nature of the different people involved, also indicated that there was a difference of opinion in a lot of the different areas.
And is it accurate to say that certification programs are designed to ensure that the people who work in this field are competent?
Well, I'm not sure it really ensures anything. What it does, it gives an indication that a person meets a minimum level of competence through testing, particularly a written test.
It's a method to weed out people who might not be competent from people who are competent. Is that accurate?
Vegas to weed out.
Overruled.
Well, the fact that it's voluntary, I'm not sure it would weed somebody out, because if somebody feels they are not going to meet the standard, they may choose not to apply for it, or they may choose not to apply for it just because they don't believe in it or for whatever variety of reason. I think it's just an opportunity for an individual that wants to show that they meet the minimum standards to take the test and apply and demonstrate that.
Now, there is no governmental body that regulates crime labs, is there?
No, there's not.
There's no governmental body that regulates criminalists.
No, except for in one area. There is some regulation when it comes to blood alcohol analysis.
Now, you're familiar with blood banks that draw people's blood to do routine blood testing?
Generally, yes.
And you're aware that they're heavily regulated by the government.
I know that there are regulations, yes.
And there are regulations about proficiency testing of people who work in those labs to make sure they don't make mistakes.
Sustained.
Now, there is no such governmental regulation of quality control, for instance, in crime labs, is there?
No, there is not.
And there is no required qualifications set forth by the government for people to be a criminalist.
No, there isn't. That's why the associations entered the area.
Now, the associations entered the area because there was a need for such programs. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And there's a need for that type of program to ensure the quality of criminalistics work that's done by criminalists, correct?
We're going back to the word ensure. I'm not sure that just by offering a program like this, that it will ensure that this will occur. Particularly the fact that it is voluntary.
Well, that's the idea, though, isn't it?
That's correct. The idea is for the people that are competent to demonstrate that they are.
Now, how many different voluntary certification programs are there?
Well, right now there is actually only one, and that would be the one that's sponsored by the American Board of Criminalistics. The program that the California Association of Criminalists, or the CAC, put into place was in essence folded into or melded into the American Board of Criminalistics program. We didn't want competing systems out there.
Now, has Dennis Fung applied for certification?
I don't know.
Has Andrea Mazzola applied for any form of certification?
I don't know.
Are the people that work in your division encouraged to apply for certification?
Yes, we make sure that they know that it's something that they can do and are welcome to do if they like.
Do you make any effort to track the people that work for you in terms of whether they've applied for certification and been certified?
Sustain. This goes beyond the scope of the director.
Now, you talk about the Denver course, I'm sorry, the New Haven course was taught by, among other people, Henry Lee.
One of the courses at New Haven, yes.
And Henry Lee, would you agree, is one of the world's foremost forensic scientists?
He is very well known and qualified, yes.
And he's the director of the Connecticut State Police Crime Lab, correct?
My understanding, yes.
And he works primarily for prosecutors.
I believe he works for the system. I suppose, in general, yes, they do tend to work for the prosecutors.
And you're aware that he's an expert for the defense in this case.
That's my understanding, yes.
Tell us what ASCLD is.
ASCLD stands for the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors.
And that's an organization that also has, or does have, an accreditation program for crime labs, correct?
Well, they started what I believe is the only accreditation program for crime laboratories. That organization now is a separate body from ASCLD called ASCLD Lab.
I'm sorry, ASCLD.
Lab for laboratory.
And the function of that, or one of the functions of that organization, is to go examine a crime lab, make recommendations, see whether they meet minimum standards in order to perform services as a crime lab, correct?
That's correct.
And how long has that program been in effect?
I believe it's been about 7, 8 years. Not quite sure.
Did you have participate in any way in setting up that program?
No, not at all.
Are you aware of the requirements for accreditation?
I have read the handout they have. Yes.
You're understanding that the requirements for accreditation are basically standards, minimum standards that a lab should meet in order to qualify for accreditation.
Yes, that's true.
And those standards are supposed to be minimum standards that would be used by a crime lab and criminalists that work for a crime lab in doing their work.
It's a goal to attain those. Yes.
And you're familiar with the particular guidelines that ASCLD has set forth in order for a lab to be accredited.
I've read them. Don't have them memorized.
Do you think they are good guidelines?
Well, it's good.
Oh,
As a rule, yes.
And do you think that the guidelines that are set out by ASCLD are desirable for a crime lab to follow?
Within the criteria they have, in other words, delineating which are essential. Let's see, it's essential, necessary. I forget what the 3 terms are, but it allows you to meet certain portions of each of those and only all of the essential ones.
Now, I believe you indicated on your direct testimony that you have not, or LAPD has not applied for accreditation for lack of funding.
That's the major reason, yes.
And it's your understanding that the funding required is what?
I don't know the exact number. I've been told that the possibility of the cost for a laboratory of our size could run anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000.
Have you, has your lab ever applied for accreditation?
We can't apply until the city authorizes the expenditure of the money, and we have requested that money to be made available to us.
Is it fair to say that you've been one of the movers to try and get accreditation for your lab?
Not to this point, no, because the accreditation was more on a managerial level, and up until just 4 months ago, I was not at that level. I was at a supervisory level, and though I feel that it's something that we should be attaining, it was our managers at the time that were pushing for it.
Are they still pushing for it?
Yes, at this point we are.
It's considered to be something that's important to your lab.
Yes.
Now, is it your opinion that your current practices, many of which you've described here today, meet the minimum standards of ASCLD?
Not relevant, Your Honor, beyond the scope.
sustain.
Do you have a quality manual at SID?
We currently have one that is being developed. We do not have one that is complete.
What is that called?
The manual itself?
Yes.
Well, it's being compiled by our quality control, quality assurance manager. I'm sure at some point it will be named like quality control manual or something. I don't believe it has a name at the moment.
Is that the field manual that there's been testimony about?
No, it is not.
So the field manual is some different document.
That's correct.
What is that?
The field manual is a guideline, general protocol and procedures manual that was being compiled by the trace analysis field unit supervisor as guidelines on how we should operate in the field.
How long has that been under development?
I believe it was probably started about 3 to 4 years ago, but actual work on the manual stopped when that particular supervisor resigned and moved to another laboratory.
Now, is there any other manual that you have in SID that your criminalists are required to follow?
For
Well, most of the units have protocol and procedure manuals within the unit.
Is there a protocol and procedure manual for the field unit?
Not at this point. That's the one that we just referenced that's under development.
Do the materials in the field manual, in your opinion, set forth standards that should be followed by the criminalists that work for SID?
At this point, it's been a while since I've reviewed the whole thing. I do know that there is some information in there that is outdated that needs to be updated. In general, the information is good, but that's one reason why it has not been presented to the lab, because it has not had a chance to be updated and managerially reviewed.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about the required training for criminalists at SID. I think you indicated the minimum educational requirements are a Bachelor of Science in some sort of science.
In a science, that's correct.
And is there any additional training other than the mini academy that we've been talking about that criminalists are required to take in order to work for SID?
Are you talking about once they are on the job or prior to being hired?
Well, let's talk about prior first.
Prior to being hired, the only requirement is that they have a bachelor's degree in science.
And after they're hired, is there any required program that they must attend?
But there's no required or formally required program except for what we've described as the informal SID Academy.
And they're not required to attend any courses outside of SID, is that correct?
No, there's no requirement for the people to attend them. There are courses available, and there are certain ones that we do try and get, we get them to fill out applications and submit them to the agencies that offer this training. And if they're accepted, then we give them time and hopefully resources in order to attend.
Now, the mini academy, how often is that held?
Well,
I'm embarrassed, Josh, because I forget the other line. The wheels of justice are going to roll you right into the blank. It's lost in my memory. I've been through so many other judges since her that can't remember.
The SID Academy, as it's been called, is kind of an informal structure of a variety of different topics. The goal is to have one every Thursday afternoon, but due to workload considerations and vacations and things like that, many times it's postponed until the next week, or the instructor that was supposed to be doing it is on a day off or something. So, like I said, we shoot for every Thursday afternoon. It doesn't always work out that way.
So it's an on again, off again type of program?
Well, the program's not on again, off again. It continues, and we do keep track of who attends what within this program. But it's many times that it could be 2 or 3 weeks or more before it meets again.
Are criminalists required to attend?
Criminalist ones are required to attend, and any other criminalist, it's offered to them if they want to.
Are they required to keep any kind of manuals, written notes of coursework?
well,
I don't know about as far as required. It depends on the instructor for a particular module, and the instructors, as a rule, are other more experienced criminalists within the laboratory. If there are handouts that are provided to the criminalists, then they are encouraged to keep them within their possession so they can refer to them at a later date.
I got a side question. We're going off track of field trip in our brains for a second. For what possible reason does Judge Ito need all of this paper? So when they present something, they give him what they're working with right now. He doesn't just keep it at the desk. Okay, what if these are transcripts that is of everything that's been going on so far? We don't see him use it. I see him shuffling around papers all day long. What papers? What is he doing up there? What is he looking at? They're talking about the glove okay, maybe they might give him a photo of the glove. And then that testimony is over. He doesn't like he gives the photo back. Like I don't understand why he has all those papers on his desk and what he's doing with them because I know he's not the jury, but he's spending a lot of time just rifling through those papers every single day. Rifling, yeah, he has notebooks that he writes his notes on. These are all clearly something else. These are all documents. And I'm wondering what the heck he's doing up there with all those documents. What is shouldn't he be just listening and writing notes? What does he need all that stuff up there for?
Is there some kind of record kept as to who attends various seminars and what the subject matter is?
Are we talking about seminars outside of the division or this academy?
The academy in the lunchroom area there.
My understanding is they do keep track of who attends them.
Do they keep track of what courses have been given for a particular session?
Yes.
Is there some kind of a compilation of handout material that has been passed out as part of the coursework?
I don't believe so, no.
Are they given any kind of examinations?
I don't believe there's been any written examinations. I do know that in some of the instructors, they work into a segment where the person is, if it's a, to give you an example, a demonstration on casting shoe prints, they will have everybody in the class cast a shoe print. But as far as formal examinations, no.
So there isn't, I assume there are no grades given out in terms of how well people do or don't do.
No, no, sir. You've been to seminars as an attorney? What the heck? Why are you saying things like this? Of course, there's no tests involved. You're there to get information.
That's correct.
Is there any kind of disciplinary procedure that you invoke if someone doesn't attend these?
No.
No, if somebody does fail to attend, we have their supervisor find out why it is, and if there was no particularly good excuse. And many times people are doing casework or they're going to court or something, so they miss out on one. But if they just fail to attend, then that's noted, and when that subject comes around again, they are told to attend that one.
Is
They
there
are
instruction ever
encouraged.
provided by outside experts?
We have occasionally brought in somebody, but it's been more on the area of general police topics. I mean, the academy includes not only forensics, but things such as radio procedures and a variety of things like that when you're dealing with a departmental agency like we are. And in those instances, we bring somebody in from the department to do that.
How often does that happen?
It's this day.
Now, you indicated on direct that you offer a training program to detectives in terms of how to collect evidence.
Well, the department has a number of very formal courses, among which are homicide detective school, sexual assault detective school, and detective supervisor school. And they always give SID or the crime lab a portion of that so that we can teach the detectives about what forensics is about.
And are homicide detectives regularly taught how to collect bloodstains?
But the ones that attend the courses that I teach are, yes.
They're provided kits to collect bloodstains, are they not?
If they request them, yes.
So they have access to swatches,
Yes,
and they have access to coin envelopes and plastic envelopes,
yes.
and they have access to tweezers and other tools for making swatches from bloodstains.
Well, if you mean access on all of these items, we have them within our laboratory, and if they run low or if they lose them or they need a replacement, they call us up and we supply them to them.
But this is also something that they might have available to them wherever they happen to be working out of.
Oral. Oral.
Well, we supply them, like I mentioned, it's basically just a file box with the tools and implements they need to collect these things. And if they were to run out, particularly if they say the cloth swatches, or if they lose their tweezers, or if they lose their scissors, they call us up and ask us for new ones.
Now, did I understand you to say that 90% of homicides, it's the detective that processes the scene rather than a criminalist?
These are very rough numbers. My guess is that we probably respond to somewhere between 10 and 20% of them, yes.
And whose decision is it whether a criminalist is going to respond or the police are going to handle the scene themselves?
It's the detective that is assigned that case.
Do you know what the criterion is for that decision?
I don't think there's any defined criteria for it. It's kind of up to the detective. If they feel that there's evidence there that they want assistance in collecting, then they call the crime lab.
Now, within SID, at the time of this case on June 13th, your position was what?
My position was as a supervising criminalist, and the units that I supervised was serology, our trace unit, the field unit, the forensic photographer, and our chemical processing unit.
Were you the supervisor for Dennis Fung and Andrea Mazzola during the time they processed the crime scene in this case?
Not directly, no. They both worked in different units. I suppose indirectly in that field services at that point, at least during the daytime, were part of my responsibility, but not directly, no.
Who was their direct supervisor?
Well, in the case of Dennis Fung, his supervisor is during music at the firearms unit, and for Andrea Mazzola, her supervisor is Bernie Sanchez in toxicology.
But when they get called out to a scene, do they still report to the same supervisors, or is it there one person who's knowledgeable about crime scene investigations that they report to as to that aspect of their job?
Well, as a rule, they have some autonomy out there. If they needed some assistance, normally at that point, they are advised to call one of the assistant directors or the director of the laboratory.
Is it fair to say it's pretty much up to them whether they call for additional assistance or not?
As to whether or not they say they need additional assistance, yes.
So there's no one that's directly overseeing them to check with them to see if they need help. It's pretty much just in response to a request by them.
As a rule, yes. And many times the field calls come in the middle of the night, and as a supervisor, I may not even know that it occurred until the next day after the person has gone, done their work, and gotten back to the laboratory.
Now, Steve Johnson, who is he?
He is the other assistant director of the laboratory.
Now, he was present at the crime scenes on June 13th, was he not?
Yes, he was.
Were you present at those scenes?
No, I was not.
When Steve Johnson was present, what was his function? If you know.
Oral.
If you know.
He was responding as assistant director, along with the captain of our division. Both of them were out there to see how things are going, to do a quick overview of the scene, and provide assistance if necessary. If not, to return back to the laboratory.
Now, you indicated that the captain of your division, the person that is over the lab director, is a police captain, correct?
That's correct.
Do the people that work for SID carry badges?
We are issued scientific investigation division badges, yes.
And but the criminalists are considered civilian employees of the police department.
Yes.
What was Michelle Kessler's position as of June 13th?
Oral.
On June 13th, she was one of the assistant directors of the laboratory. At that time, we did not have a director. That spot was empty. She and Mr. Johnson shared the responsibility for administration of the laboratory.
And she is now the director of the lab?
That's correct.
She's married to a robbery homicide detective, is she not?
Yes, she is.
Does she work fairly closely with detectives in the police department, to your knowledge?
Oral.
Well, to some extent, we all do. I don't think she does any more than the rest of us, other than the fact she's married to one.
Do you know whether she socializes with detectives in robbery homicide?
We're getting beyond the scope of the director, Campbell.
Now, you indicated on direct that you were in charge of managing items in this case. Do you remember that testimony?
I believe so, yes.
What did you mean by that?
Well, one of the roles that I've had is in coordinating an awful lot of the activities when it comes in tracking what happens in analysis in relation to this case. Every time that requests for analysis have gone through me, requests to have the evidence submitted outside have gone through me if I've been available. The times where we have set up viewings for the defense, I've been mainly involved in that, making sure the items were available and that the areas were available and that type of thing. Just general coordination.
And have you had that function since the beginning of the case?
Pretty much, yes.
Has it been your responsibility to track all of the items of evidence that have been collected from the 13th onward?
What do you mean by track?
Keep track of where they are.
No, it is not.
Has it been your job to determine what items of evidence are to be analyzed and what aren't to be analyzed?
Like I mentioned, most of the requests go through me as a contact point for the detectives or the DA's office. They would call me up to put in the request specifying what type of analysis was requested to be done. I would then prepare a request and forward it on to the appropriate person.
Now, have you been monitoring since June 13th the media coverage about this case?
Off and on, yes.
And have you been following the court proceedings?
Off and on.
When you say off and on, what do you mean?
Well, I would watch some, and there got to be a point a while back where I figured it was probably best not to. It was consuming too much of my time during the day. I tended to be paying more attention to it once people within our laboratory were involved.
At what point did you stop watching television?
Well, during the daytime, that would be during the detective's testimony.
Now, did you watch the testimony of Dennis Fung?
As much as I could. I still am working, so I'd be in and out of my office, and I miss segments of it.
Did you try to watch the testimony of Andrea Mazzola?
Same thing, as much as possible.
And that was with a television in your office?
Yes.
Did you discuss their testimonies with them in the evenings after they testified? Let me start with Dennis Fung.
From the time that Mr. Fung started testifying until he was done, I left messages on his answering machine twice. Didn't talk directly with him, and I met with him one evening, and we went out to dinner, and that was it.
During Andrea Mazzola's testimony, did you have any conversations or meet with her when she wasn't testifying?
I believe there was one meeting that we had. It was myself, Michelle Kessler, and Colin Yamuchi, and Ms. Mazzola in Ms. Kessler's office.
When was that?
Oh, I don't know the exact date. It was sometime, I believe, early on in her testimony.
And what was the subject matter of that meeting?
We were just talking generally about style of testimony, how to feel comfortable on the stand, posing questions to her as far as potential things that she might be asked about.
So you talked about specific issues that might come up as part of her testimony.
We didn't so much talk about them, just to suggest areas that she may want to be aware of as far as potential questions that may be applied to her.
What sorts of areas did you suggest to her might come up?
Sustain.
Did Michelle Kessler participate in that meeting?
Sustain.
Was there any specific discussion of item 17, Mr. Simpson's blood vial, at that meeting?
Overruled.
Oh, I don't remember that item. If that item specifically came up, it might have.
Were you aware that that was a significant issue or had been raised as a significant issue by the defense by that time?
Yes.
And was the purpose of that meeting to discuss that issue, among others?
No, it wasn't.
You have no recollection of whether you discussed that or not with her?
Oh, I don't remember if we discussed that specific item. Like I said, we were talking generally about style and just how to testify, feeling comfortable about testifying.
When you say how to testify, what do you mean?
Just,
Mildly. One answer. Go ahead and answer the question, then we're going to quit for the day.
the concept of trying to be comfortable, to make eye contact, that type of thing, to deal with the attorneys and the jury, the whole process of being in a courtroom and testifying.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for.
I'm not calling you guys ladies and gentlemen. I just won't. Just won't. Because I'll leave some of you out. I am not a lady or a gentleman, so I would not be included in that group either. You know, I'm gonna watch what you sent me, Josh. You sent me like 44 minutes. I have a live stream today that's an hour long. I plan on inserting at least 15 minutes worth of pausing. So that might be perfect. I was going to do Judge Eric, but this is really interesting because it hasn't been done or seen in a long time. So I'm going to watch this right now. That's the first thing I'm going to do once this live stream ends is I'm going to go watch what you sent me and then dig on their website. But thanks guys for coming out to OJ. We did not start the first 40 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, I don't know, at 1.25 speed. So we wasted all of our time today. We wasted 20 minutes maybe? I don't know. I don't know when I turned it on. But I turned it on when Salty came in, I think. And we're missing Chinny. It's been a bit now since we've seen Chinny. So if anybody sees Chinny, say hi. Hope everything's okay. All right. I'll see you guys in what? What are we looking at? 34.5 hours, I think. Go check the link to know exactly what time the special live stream is today and make sure your gifting is turned on so that you get a free membership. All right. I'll see you all again real soon. I'm really excited. Bye, guys. Thank you.